Okay, so Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who is currently running for the Democratic nomination for president in 2020, got interviewed by the Washington Post earlier. I think this was today, either today or yesterday. And he's responding to a criticism from Elizabeth Warren about the ridiculous amount of high dollar fundraisers that he's been attending and just the billionaire money and just dark money that he's been taking in general throughout his campaign. So let's watch this and then we'll talk about it.
Senator Warren said in a speech this week in New Hampshire that she has a rival in the race who, quote, offers top donors regular phone calls and special access. When a candidate brags about how beholden he feels to a group of wealthy investors, our democracy is in serious trouble. That comment was widely seen as a reference to you. Is that a fair critique? What's your response?
You know, the thing about these purity tests is the people issuing them can't even meet them, right? If doing traditional fundraisers disqualifies you from running for president, then I guess neither one of us would be here. Let's have a serious conversation about where this country is headed. And hitting somebody with a process purity test when we're in the debate of our lifetimes about what it's going to take to move this country forward in very specific policy terms, like who has a better vision on how to make sure we move to universal health care in this country, and in broader terms about what kind of path is needed to create that sense of belonging and replace that sense of exclusion that is defining American life. This deserves to be at the center of the debate, and that's where I'm going to keep my focus.
Yeah, so let's just run through why that answer was just complete and utter nonsense.
Complete word
and just
salad.
Word salad, just a complete deflection. So he says, "Oh, if we let these purity tests be our focus, then we're gonna get distracted from the policies." That was like the general sense I got from what he was saying, and that's not a purity test to say that you shouldn't be corrupt and take big money that's going to have a direct influence on how you're going to govern once you get into the office of the presidency. So, like, for example, I don't know if you guys know this, but Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the second biggest recipient of health insurance money, second to, guess who it is, President Donald J. Trump. So he's taking a tremendous amount of money from health insurance companies and drug companies too, and that you can clearly see that in his backtrack on Medicare for All. For those of you who don't know, back in 2018, he was publicly voicing his support for Medicare for All, and then fast forward to now when he starts running for president. I know, he starts running for president, and then would you look at that? He shifts his support from Medicare for All to a public option, which is so much worse, and just the most obvious backtrack, most obvious switch, just because he started taking that money from the health insurance companies. And you have anything you want to add?
I just think it's so infuriating that his like first argument is that, oh, Warren does the same thing, so like I guess we're all guilty of it. And you're like, yeah, that's the point.
And
yeah.
And
then you can't offer any defense past that. Like, oh, she does it too. But then you don't why is it okay? And then what just infuriates me even more is that he's like, we gotta talk about the issues, and then literally all that is
This is an issue.
All it is, but all that is just centrist babble that just like it just like discounts it. Like, oh no, that's not important.
Just
we gotta talk about
deflection.
the issues, yeah.
Yeah, even though this is, I would argue, the single biggest policy issue that is in American politics right now is
Money, yeah.
Yeah, money and campaign finance and how just dark and corrupt it is right now.
I also think it's rich how he's like, yeah, we need to move the conversation to how we move to universal healthcare. What? You're the one who isn't advocating for universal healthcare.
Yeah.
You're literally putting the block in spot. So what are you talking about?
So his policy, Medicare for all who want it, is just a public option, and it's already been proven in every credible study that it won't get us to actual universal coverage. It's estimated it would leave 10 million people uninsured and even more underinsured who have right now, because it leaves the private health insurance companies in place. And his policy, a public option, is literally designed to fail, because what would happen is you'd offset all the poor and sick people onto the public plan, and you'd keep the rich and healthy people on their private plans, because they would be marketing for the rich and healthy people, and then those people would be getting their money taken by the private companies, and then the people on the public plan would just be draining the system of resources, and it would get underfunded, and it would just be a disaster. The quality would crash. And then the corporate Democrats and the Republicans would turn around and say, see, government-run
Yeah.
healthcare doesn't work.
And then just further setbacks.
So that's why Medicare for All is the only option. And then he says, what we need to do is to create a sense of
That's the most
belonging.
infuriating part of the entire video, I think.
Because
What do you mean?
That's just classic Mayor Pete right there, just talking for an extended period of time,
And then
well,
saying nothing.
not actually saying anything. So he's just trying to fill the
Just
time, the
literal word
allotted
salad,
time with
yeah.
just words, word salad, but not actually responding to the criticism from Elizabeth Warren, which is, by the way, the most valid criticism that anybody could give Mayor Pete, because
Totally.
he will take any corporate money that is thrown at. Is
It's
offered to
honestly
him.
embarrassing how transparent he is with his
Oh,
corruption.
it's so embarrassing. Yeah, but it works on all the boomers. Like,
It totally does, but I don't think it's sustainable. though.
Yeah, what was
I-
that poll that came out the other day where it was like 3% of
Young people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
support him? So he's struggling in not only the black community, the Latino community,
The black
but
community especially.
yeah, he has a whopping 0% support from the black community.
John Delaney
Which is
has
just-
more black support than Pete Buttigieg.
John Delaney in some polls. So talk about embarrassing. You have your guy, Mayor Pete.
But one more thing is that back to when you were talking about how he brought up the idea of creating a sense of belonging, and he's like, these are the things that need to be at the center of the debate, and like ignore these other things. What? He's literally just saying, yeah, we need to just focus more on identity politics and just like all of these things that don't actually matter, as opposed to like the policy. You're like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so for those of you guys that don't know, what the corporate Democrats like to do is economically, they're in a lot of ways the same as the Republicans. They agree
yeah.
with them on a lot of the issues, like Wall Street deregulation, keeping the rich
War.
extremely
War especially,
extremely rich.
yeah.
War. They love the military-industrial complex. They'll do whatever the military-industrial complex wants. I don't know, climate change, any issue. The Democrats, most issues, they're just as corrupt as the Republicans, but they pretend like they're not. And what they do is they distract you with the social
Yeah,
issues.
for
So,
sure.
like, I don't know, they'll talk about, say, abortion or
Or they're
I don't know, like racism or something like that.
Or like, yeah, I'm pro like gay people, and you're just like,
Yeah, you're just,
yeah, you accomplished
Good for
everything.
you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to focus on anything else that's terrible
yeah.
about you.
But then when you actually look into it, they're taking the same money they're taking money from the same people as who the Republicans are. So they have the same agenda policy-wise a lot of the time. Not in every issue, but a lot of issues. And that, like this is a perfect example. Mayor Pete and Donald Trump are the two biggest recipients of health insurance company money.
What does that tell you? Yeah.
What does that? That tells you everything you need to know right there. You can see right through his corruption.
Why do you think they're getting that money? Do you think the healthcare industry has your best interest in mind? Like what?
Yeah, because for those of you guys that don't know, Medicare for All would phase out
yeah.
duplicative private insurance over time and put everybody on the single payer insurance program, which would be Medicare, which
Funded by
is
the government, yeah.
yeah, which is similar to what they have in countries around the world, like
Like
Canada. Yeah. And for those of you guys that don't know, every single country that has a single payer system is just so much better than our system. They have everybody gets covered. They spend half what we spend. Nobody goes bankrupt. Nobody dies, because we have like 30 to 45,000 people who die every year because they don't have health insurance. They don't have insurance companies robbing them blind, denying people coverage. Because you think about the business model of an insurance company, it's to deny as much coverage as possible and take as much money as they can. So why would they be investing? Because that's
For
what
your best interest. Yeah.
yeah, why would they be investing in a presidential candidate if they were going to actually care about the recipients of the health care, as opposed why would an insurance company be investing in a candidate that would be phasing out private insurance? It doesn't make any sense.
All of these issues, they all come down to literally money and politics.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly might be the biggest issue of like our modern day.
Yeah, and then when he gets criticized for it, what does he do? He just fills the allotted time he has. Yeah, he fills the time he has to talk with just word salad, and he doesn't. Yeah, and he doesn't actually respond. Although Warren doesn't honestly have that much room to stand on. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
People think of Warren as like, oh, this huge progressive because the corporate media paints her as like they spew all this propaganda about how she's the same as Bernie Sanders. Like CNN and MSNBC have time and time again propped her up and been like, oh, Bernie Sanders too. Like she's the bet. Like she's like, oh, she's Bernie, but she's like younger and a woman. So why wouldn't you support her instead of him? Because they hate Bernie so much. But it's really, they're so much different. And what she did, she actually did take big money in a ways, because what she did for her presidential campaign is she funneled like $10 million from her Senate campaign that she raised big money in, and she funneled that big money from corporations into her presidential campaign. So she still is using the money that the bribes that she was taking from corporations and billionaires.
I
in
think
the past.
I think we definitely disagree on like to the effect of like which we dislike Elizabeth Warren. Like I don't think that she definitely has like worse intentions, but also it's why would you vote for her over Bernie? Like there's literally like that's the biggest thing. Like why? Like I don't think that she's actually like bad intentioned, but Bernie just is a better version of her in literally every single way.
Yeah, well, the reason I think she's also bad intentioned is look back to 2016. She turned her back on Bernie. Like, let's just call it what it is. Her endorsement could have sent him over the finish line in 2016.
Yeah.
It could have, but since she was getting vetted by Hillary for maybe a VP position, which, by the way, I think was just a ruse by Hillary
Totally,
Clinton
100%.
to get her to not endorse Bernie Sanders. But since she just sat out the 2016 election, waited till
Just
the general,
watch what happened,
to vote for Hillary. So it's like, dude, you didn't have my boy Bernie's back. Like you screwed him over.
Yeah.
So and then now you're gonna jump in the race and try to coast off of the movement he's built and try to take take the progressive lane when you're not even as progressive as him, and you're just. I think that's why I think that she's not the best.
I mean, I'm not that
she's
worried.
Just trying to get
the reason
more
I'm not that
elected.
worried about it is that because like we see the results in the polls. She's being a more disingenuous version of Bernie, and she's plummeting.
She's facepalming. Well, she actually kind of went back up a little bit,
But like,
but
not to the
Bernie's
point where it's-
skyrocketing above her
exactly.
now.
So I think that like the anger that you can like put towards Warren, it's eventually going to be like kind of obsolete because she's falling off. I think very soon.
Yeah. Well, I just realized this conversation went from Mayor Pete. Well, I guess
Yeah,
Warren
we were
was
talking
part-
about Warren,
yeah,
too,
I guess
yeah.
so. But yeah, that's why Mayor Pete's response there was nonsense, and he shouldn't be taken seriously by anybody.
I mean, like overall, I just think it's so transparent about how just fake and villain-like he is. Like, he's just intentionally ignoring like a very, very valid question and just saying, "Oh, it's ridiculous."
Where he's clearly corrupt, and then he's just deflecting and saying like, "No, focus on this, focus on this, focus on this, the social issues." But it's like,
But I think the people are gonna see through it though. I don't think he's gonna be much of a threat for like that long.
yeah,
I think people are starting to recognize it. Even the media, like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this guy's like kind of not even.
And I'd also just like to add, it's hilarious that he thinks he can win a Democratic primary
Yeah,
with
hilarious.
0% black support and
that-
almost no Latino
it's so
support.
embarrassing.
And with you have him with 3% young people.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
What are you doing, bro? Like,
And that number's
drop
not
out.
gonna go
Drop
up.
out. Yeah.
You think all of a sudden young people and black people are gonna come around to liking Buttigieg?
Yeah,
No.
he faked the black endorsements in his Douglas plan.
Oh,
He
dude,
literally
the
he came out-
picture.
Yeah, so for those of you guys that don't know, Mayor Pete released this plan,
So
a
embarrassing.
Douglas plan for Black America, and it was clearly just something he's had a history of very questionable behavior towards the black community in his hometown as mayor. Like there was an incident with a police officer not wearing the police chief. What was it? The police chief?
Something along those lines.
A police officer from South Bend not wearing a body camera when an African American was killed, and their body camera was off, and he didn't fire the police chief. And
It's
like,
a complicated situation.
yeah, and it's like you're the mayor, just fire him. So
but we digress. I guess. Yeah.
yeah. But Mayor Pete's a fraud. He's not going anywhere with the black community. He's not going anywhere with young people. They can see right through it. His brand of politics, the neoliberal, corporate, warmonger, centrist brand of politics is on its way out. Bernie 2020. So, yeah. Don't ever take this guy seriously. He should honestly be booed and shamed every time he's in public. Hashtag Wall Street Pete. Let's get
Wall Street Pete.
that trending. It's already trending, but just keep posting it, I guess. Yeah.